So, what if you could build a belief system, pretty much from scratch, that actually combines ancient faith with modern science? Well, today, we're diving into one person's really ambitious attempt to do exactly that. We're talking about a faith designed for both the head and the heart. You know, the whole system we're about to unpack really hangs on this one single powerful question. Is it even possible to bring together the spiritual depth of ancient traditions with the cold, hard logic of modern reason? If you've ever felt that pull between those two worlds, you are definitely not alone. And what we're about to explore is one person's really profound answer to that exact problem. And the author tells us right from the get-go, look, this isn't just theology, and it's not just philosophy. He calls it a religious philosophical faith. And that phrase alone, that tells you everything about the ambition here, right? It's an attempt to build a single worldview that can truly satisfy both our need for spiritual meaning and our rational, logical minds. Okay, so if you're going to build an entire belief system, where do you even begin? Well, according to this thinker, you don't start with rules or stories. No, you start at the very foundation of everything, the definition of God. This first concept, this infinite source, it's the bedrock for everything else that's going to follow. First thing you got to do is forget any image of a person like God sitting on a throne somewhere. This system starts with a principle. Just try to imagine a single, absolute, infinite, and intelligent consciousness. It's not a being in the universe. It is the very source of the universe. It's the ultimate reality that everything else comes from. Now, this is a pretty mind-bending idea, so stick with me. In this view, God isn't some external creator who, built the universe. Instead, God is the moment the infinite universe becomes aware of itself. Just think about that for a second. The consciousness of the entire universe, the unity of everything reflecting on its own existence, that is God. And this brings us to a huge fork in the road, philosophically speaking. Most of us, we grew up with the idea of a transcendent God, a creator who is separate from the world, kind of like an artist is separate from their painting. But this system argues for the exact opposite. An immanent God. The world isn't something God made. The world exists inside of God. And this one concept, immanence, it changes everything. It means creation wasn't about making something out of nothing. It was more like, imagine the infinite deciding to draw a boundary within itself, creating a finite space inside its own infinity. Our entire reality, everything we see, everything we feel and experience, it all exists within that divine self-limitation. Okay, so we've got this picture of a self-aware universe. But where do we fit into all this? This next section, it zooms in from that cosmic scale right down to us. If the world is inside God, then what does that make our little human spark of consciousness? We all accept that basic rule of physics, right? Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It only gets transformed. So here's the logical jump this philosophy makes. What about the energy of your own consciousness, that inner feeling of I? The argument here is that it, too, must be an indestructible force. It can't just be switched off. It can only change its form. And within that indestructible consciousness, we're working with two distinct powers. Think of them like two different engines. First, you've got reflection. That's our logical, rational mind. It's what lets us learn things and build complex philosophical systems. And then you've got spontaneity. That raw, intuitive, creative spark. It's where art comes from, and as we're about to see, it's also where religion comes from. And this might be the most radical idea in the whole system. What is a revelation? Well, this system claims it is not a message zapped down from a god in the sky. No, it's what happens when human creativity, that spontaneity we just talked about, reaches its absolute peak and gives birth to a whole new religious vision for the world. In other words, it's a product of human genius. But hold on, if revelation is human, then what are miracles? What are all those visions? This is where the synthesis gets really fascinating. The author uses a scientific term. He calls them hallucinations. But, and this is the important part, they are divinely willed. They're like profound teaching tools, used by the universe to give us crucial truths in the form of powerful stories and images long before our species was ready to understand them with pure rational philosophy. So we've seen how the individual consciousness works. Now, let's zoom back out again. If each person is on some kind of journey, what about all of humanity collectively? This final section lays out history not as a series of random, chaotic events, but as a purposeful, grand educational story, a universe that's constantly in progress. According to this philosophy, religious history is basically a planet-wide curriculum. It starts with the raw intuitive power of early pagan beliefs. Then comes a critical leap forward, Judaism, which is called the elder brother, introduces and protects this revolutionary idea of a single universal God. From there, Christianity and Islam act as the great preparations, taking that monotheistic seed and planting it all across the globe, which sets the stage for what this thinker believes is the final chapter, a unified, rational faith for all humanity. Now, to make this historical engine run, the author assigns a very specific and unique role to Israel. In this particular framework, they're seen as humanity's religious genius, the elder brother whose main job in history was to protect that core divine law. And the ultimate destiny that's envisioned for them within this system is to eventually serve as a kind of priesthood for that unified global religion of the future. But this idea of progress isn't just about the grand sweep of history. It's also incredibly personal. Remember that indestructible I we were talking about earlier? Well, in this worldview, each individual soul is also on a continuous journey of growth and development. And it's a journey that doesn't just end when you die. And that leads us straight to the concept of metempsychosis, which you probably know better as reincarnation. Now, for this thinker, this isn't some mystical fantasy. It's a logical necessity. I mean, if one single life is all we get, how could there possibly be justice in the world? How could a soul truly learn and evolve? So reincarnation is presented as the only mechanism that allows for endless learning and ensures that every single I eventually gets a fair shot at reaching perfection. And so, after all that, this entire system leaves us with one final and very personal question. If your core self, your I, is truly indestructible, and if all of humanity is on a long, slow journey toward perfection, then what are you destined to become? On this infinite journey of consciousness, what's your next step?